Hi everyone, my name is James, and this is a development vlog for the game that I've been working on for a few years now. The answer is never. And what I pulled up here in the browser is a website that I coded up probably about a year ago. And this was supposed to be just a landing page to show a few bits of concept art and art from the game, as sort of a marketing funnel here, and a link to some of the socials too where development could be followed. And I need to update, this is woefully out of date. I need to update this and get some new artwork in here. Some of the stuff is still good, like the concept banner is still good artwork. This is actually what the functional implemented menu in Unity does look like. So a lot of this does reflect the actual project in Unity at this point. This was some of the concept art for some of these characters, some of the protagonists, antagonists. Again, a lot of this is missing. I've sort of gone stealth working on a lot of things, and I made a lot of progress. But I wasn't spending a lot of time going online and sharing that and vlogging about it. And I think that's going to change now as I'm ready to ramp back up. The biggest change here that we'd see is this aesthetic that was based around sort of realism. Has really changed to a more stylized, colorful aesthetic. It's a different form of materialization and coloring everything. And I'll show that off. That's really the crux of what I want to show in this video here. The game itself, at a high level, was really let's see, my goals with this were to just tell a sort of a simple narrative and story around this one individual, this young woman, and her sort of trying to find her community or tribe or sense of belonging in a new place that is foreign to her. And so for you as the player, it is also a new place to explore and everything. It's also unfamiliar to her too. So I wanted to make sure that there was alignment there. She's been moved to a new town that she wasn't exactly happy about because of what was going on with her parents. And she's trying to find her place in that new town, and she's trying to discover sort of the lay of the land there as well, both metaphorically and probably literally too. And the skateboarding was another layer that I wanted to use as again, a metaphorical vehicle for her finding of her tribe, but also a literal vehicle for traveling around the world and getting around, and sort of adding a layer of a dynamic, non-baked in layer of interesting things that you can do with a vehicle like that in an exploratory environment that's very large. And and that's exactly what's going on with that. So today what I wanted to show is we're in Unity here. And the way that I've worked on this project, I'm not going to show the other aspects of the project right now, but the way that I've been working on it is to isolate certain bits of content into packages that get injected into the core Unity project. And in this case, the packages, the vehicles, and the rendering aesthetic for the vehicles and stuff like that. So what we're looking at here are some of the vehicles, and I can just scroll the camera by. They're in various states of being worked on. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about here too is making these different variants of the vehicles where we have, like a red and a beige version, and then we have like a blue, a navy blue, and a baby blue version. And some things will be different about the geometry on these different ones and the color. And this allows me to populate these around the world, and they can exploit reuse, but also have unique versions so that they don't look exactly identical. And they still are a bit too close right now. And the great thing is I can go in there and do a lot of different things to the geometry and the textures and the materials to sort of work that out. And so this front row right here, these are all the vehicles that I'm currently working on, these different variants of them where they have slightly different looks to the paint and maybe certain other elements like the mirrors and things like that. And this back row back here are all of the vehicles that I have yet to create variants for, but they will also get color variants, and they will also get geometry variants and stuff like that. And all in all, we'll probably have I would say upwards of 60 or 70, somewhere between 50 and 70 different variations of vehicles. We're going to try to use instancing or batching to really optimize these at scale. Also LODs. These are very optimized assets as is. I don't think any of them are over 25K triangles. And they do have interiors, but the interiors are hidden and the windows are darkened for now. I may get to a point where I maybe make a proxy of the interiors. It just shows the silhouette or shape. And then you can see that interior through a semi-opaque glass. But we can see the Source 3ds Max files here and go through. We can see the ones that have all been materialized or colored, and then the ones yet to come. So there are some other very interesting types of vehicles, like there are police cars. There is I'm going to reuse this for a mail truck. I believe I can make a mail truck out of the Jeep. And then there's a school bus and other stuff like that. I think we'll want a fire truck. We'll want some other normal, there's a taxi cab right there. Want some other vehicles that you may see inside of the city that won't be passenger vehicles as well. I was also considering adding in maybe motorcycles as well, which I thought would be very interesting. And just think about those things that are overlooked maybe in games where you don't see certain types of vehicles or whatever. The game takes place in the late 1980s, so all of these vehicles are based on that period of time, and they are all fictional, non-branded vehicles. So we can stretch between late 80s, early 90s. There is some flexibility there. Again, it is a completely fictional game, but so there's leeway there with that, I think, in the storytelling and the way that whole, the narrative and vibe and the feel is weaved. It's really about the vibe. One interesting thing I wanted to bring up was the TAA in Unity's implementation of TAA, the anti-aliasing, was really rough. And there was a lot of scintillating and flickering and swimming. I was building for 1080p. And one cool thing, I was experimenting to see if I could completely eliminate the TA flickering and noise. And I was trying to build at 4K, and I thought, well, I should support 4K by default. And then we can, if need be, the user can also scale down to 1080p if they want. But it didn't completely eliminate the TA or noise. But one of the interesting things that I did was I went into the pipeline, and in the pipeline asset, I went in and I did scaling of 2 times render scale. So we're using an upscaling filter from 1080p. So when we double the 1080p upscale, we actually, if I go to window analysis, right here, the frame debugger, and we look at that and enable it, we'll actually let's just look at the rendering after post-processing and everything here at the very bottom of all the frames being drawn and written out. We see here that our final texture here is a 4K texture. It is 380/40 by 2160. And that is the doubling of that 1080p. And in the build, if I can find this build real quick, we'll see, I think I just built it just to look at the rendering quality. And we see that there's really no TA scintillation or pixel swimming or whatever you want to call it, where that edge, TAA really struggles with the the hard edges where the specular is caught at the edge there. I think a lot of anti-aliasing solutions struggle at that point. And there was a lot of swimming and going on there with the pixels along those edges, but it's completely eliminated taking this approach. I'm really liking this rendering aesthetic, and I have been experimenting with it. It includes a little bit of one-tone cell shading from dark to light, like a gradient. It includes a black outline or dark bluish gray. I'm going to sort of tweak that a bit. It's still a little rough. also includes a little bit of rim lighting, and you can see that here on the roof of the station wagon and the gradient right here, a little bit of light white or blue there. And there are multiple layers. Let me close that. There are multiple layers that we could add in there. The flat kit shaders are absolutely amazing for that. And we can go in and there's all kinds of cool stuff that we can do. We have light contribution, so Unity's actual real-time lighting. There's stylization that can happen with the shadows, and that is happening a little bit here. The shadows do look generally better. They're in a rough debug state now, so they look a little grainy or gritty, but they can be smoothed out. That is using the Umbra Soft Shadows package, and it's pretty darn amazing how it just insta beefs up the appearance of shadows. And again, I haven't tweaked it. There's a lot of quality settings that you can do in there to increase the samples and stuff like that. And it's designed with performance in mind. So flat kit shader for the stylized aesthetic on the materials, and the Umbra Soft Shadows package has been really great. There's also horizon-based ambient occlusion happening, and without it on, you kind of see what it looks like. And it might be something we keep or don't keep. I think the user should be able to, in the game settings, turn this on or off depending on how heavy it is in the spec of their computer, but maybe even like the aesthetic that they're going for. Those are probably like the three packages in there right now. It's the flat kit, the HBAO package, and Umbra Soft Shadows. I really love those. Beautify as well by, I think, Cronect is a really great package. So I'm just going to keep pushing forward on this. I'm going to keep producing vehicle variants. And then I think in the next devlog, I will show off all of the props and things like that. And I'll show off some of the buildings and structures and houses and things like that for the neighborhood. This is, I think I forgot to add that this is a completely textureless approach. So nothing in this scene to include even the sky in the background. That is a procedural skybox going on in the background, but nothing uses textures here, which is pretty cool. These are all vertex colors. So in regards to instancing and things like that too, they're all using the same material. Well, they were, every single car was using one material. And because of vertex colors, I could give them all unique colors, but it would just be one material for everything. The idea was like, I was wondering if I could author this in a way that the entire game and world, with the exception of maybe foliage and dynamic things, could all be one material. And everything is entirely vertex colors. But I realized it was unnecessary and it was a limitation on getting the effects that I wanted. So the variants in the cars share a material, but they don't share it across different models or mix of cars, because each car I wanted to maybe give a unique look to maybe the way the rim lighting looks on it or the outline or something like that. I just felt like I shouldn't box myself in too much with that, and that it was an unnecessary optimization at this point. But I can afford the overhead at upscaling the render and the overhead of doing some other things in post-processing, because in other ways, I'm making this content extremely light. And so there will be a few textures used in the game. I would anticipate probably for things like foliage or things that need alpha transparency. There is transparency that I can use with vertex alpha, but I can't use that for a cutout, like a decal or something like that. And again, that could be done in geometry. There's probably quite a few ways to approach that. But there's going to be little to no textures used in this entire game. It basically was inspired, I think, mostly off of Thomas Salas and the Falconeer, or Bulwark, I think was his newer game. And he was taking a textureless approach and just coloring everything without using textures. And I thought, this is really great. And it's really great from a development perspective as well. because you don't have to worry about authoring all of these PBR texture sets with 6 different textures plugged into a PBR material. You can just vertex color faces, just artistically, all you want, and adjust them. And that was very powerful and allows for very fast iteration. Like all of these cars, this was very fast to get these materialized. A week, 5 days, and all of them were materialized and colored uniquely. That would not have happened probably even using something like Substance Painter. Anyway, so I will talk to you guys again in the next devlog, and thank you for watching this one.